This is the third and final tutorial of this module. This tutorial will demonstrate the most important features of Harvard referencing with appropriate examples. Before starting to explain the different methods of referencing, it is best to first understand what referencing is. Sheffield Hallam University defines referencing as an acknowledgement of the sources of the information, ideas, thoughts, and data which you have used in your work. Apart from what referencing is, we should also know why we must reference. According to Sheffield Hallam University, referencing is the accepted way to acknowledge other people's work when you have used it in your work or have been influenced by it. Furthermore, proper referencing can help students to avoid plagiarism. The two most used methods of referencing are Harvard referencing and numeric referencing. This tutorial will only demonstrate the Harvard referencing method, as it is the one that is recommended by the Sheffield Hallam University. This tutorial will provide guidance on the principles of Harvard referencing. These principles are citing, paraphrasing, and summarizing, bibliography referencing, reference list, referencing electronic and internet sources, books and journals. Have in mind that this tutorial will only include the most commonly used principles of Harvard referencing. For all the principles of Harvard referencing, follow the links below this video tutorial. Harvard referencing is divided into two sections. The first section is citing the source in your text, and second section is including a reference of the source in the reference list. In order to understand better how Harvard referencing works, this tutorial will first demonstrate how to cite different sources in the text, and then how to include each reference in the reference or bibliography list, in line with citing the source section. Sheffield Hallam University implies that when using Harvard referencing system, each citation should include the author's last name, family name, and the year of the work in brackets. In order to understand best how citation works in Harvard referencing, it is best to analyze each example separately. The first example is concerned with citing one author. As you can see, one author citation can be performed in two ways. The first way is to include both the surname of the author and the year of work in brackets. For example, according to, opening brackets, surname, 2011, closing brackets. The second way of performing one author's citation is to include the name of the author in your sentence, but also include the year of the work in brackets after the name of the author. For example, surname, opening brackets, 2011, closing brackets. The second example is concerned with citing two or three authors at the same time. Again, there are two ways of performing two or three authors' citation. Similarly to the previous example, the first way is to include all the authors in the bracket along with the year of the work. For example, according to, opening brackets, Maseretis, Smith, and Ford, 2011, closing brackets. The second way is to include the surnames of the authors in the text and the year of the work after the last surname in brackets. For example, Maseretis, Smith, and Ford, and in brackets 2011. The third example is concerned with citing a source with three or more authors. Citing a source with three authors can be done with either this way or the one explained in this previous slide. Continuing, citing three or more authors for one source can be done in two ways. These two ways are similar to the previous example of citing two or three authors from the same source, with the only difference that you do not include all the surnames of the authors. Instead, you only include the surname of the first author followed by E.T.A.L. The two examples in this slide illustrate exactly how to cite three or more authors for one source. The next example is associated with citing edited items. An edited item is work that it has been edited by other authors. If an item is edited rather than having authors, you use the same principles as the ones explained in the previous examples, with the only difference that you include the editor's surname and year of the edited document instead of the surname of the original author and the year of publication. Other citation examples include citing an organization, company, or government authors. If an item is written by an organization, company, or government body, you use the same principles as all the other examples. The only difference is that you include the name of the organization, company, or government, and the year of the document's publication. The two examples in this slide illustrate how to perform organization citation referencing. The next example is concerned with citing more than one item by the same author. The procedure of citing more than one items by the same author is similar with all previously explained examples. The surname of the author remains the same as author is the same, but you do need to change the date of publication for every citation. For example, if the first item was written in 2011, in your text you will include the surname and 2011 in brackets. If the second item of the same author is published in 2009, then your citation must include surname and 2009 in brackets. The examples above demonstrate this method. However, if you have used items written by the same author and were published in the same year, you need to distinguish them by including a small letter at the end of the publication date. The two examples in this slide demonstrate how to perform this action. As you can see, both sources come from the same author, Messertis, and both of sources have the same year of publication, 2011, but each work is distinguished by a letter in after publication year, 2011A, 2011B. The sequence of letters is determined according to which reference was used first. Continuing, there are some sources that do not have an author. In such situation, we use the same principles as all the previous examples, but instead of the surname of the author, we include the title of the document. Apart from sources which do not have authors, there are some sources which do not have date of publication. According to the Sheffield Hallam University Referencing Guide, in such cases we reference the sources as we would have done with any other sources, but instead of the year of publication we use no date. The two examples in this slide illustrate how to perform this method of referencing. As far as images, diagrams, tables, and figures are concerned, they are referenced the same way as every other example. For example, surname, opening brackets, 2011, closing brackets, provides a diagram of. On the other hand, the creator of the image, diagram, table, or figure may not be the same as the author of the source in which you found it. The source should tell you if the creator of the image is someone else by the inclusion of a citation to the original creator. If this information does not appear, you can assume they are the same. If the creator of the image, diagram, table, or figure is different to the author of the book or other source, you should include the creator of the image and cite and reference the source. This follows the principles of secondary referencing. The two examples in this slide explain precisely how to reference images, diagrams, tables, and figures which have another author. Sometimes you might need to reference several sources together. In order to do that, you include in brackets all the sources that you took data from them. Quoting is copying or repeating exactly a sentence, passage, statement, etc. from a book or other resource. When quoting, it is necessary to indicate that you are using someone else's words by enclosing the quote in quotation marks or by indenting the quote. You also need to cite where the quote has come from, including the page number or paragraph/line number, and provide a full reference in your bibliography or reference list. According to Sheffield Hallam University, paraphrasing can demonstrate that you have properly understood the original writer's meaning. It does not mean copying a piece of writing and just changing a few words. When you paraphrase correctly, the writing will be in your own style, but express the original author's ideas or information. Paraphrased information must be referenced. Even if you have not directly quoted any of the words, you must still give credit to the original author. If you do not acknowledge the source of the information which you have paraphrased, then you will be guilty of plagiarism. Summarizing is expressing briefly or concisely the main points from a source in your own words. It is important still to reference your original source because you have used the ideas or information from that source. At the end of your assignment, you need to include the bibliography and referencing lists. Bibliography lists all the works you have used in preparing your assignment. This will include all the sources you have cited and any background reading, even works not cited or directly referred to in your text. On the other hand, a reference list includes only the items actually cited in your work. Your bibliography or reference list needs to be precise, consistent, and comprehensive. Each resource should appear in your bibliography or reference list only once, but it should be cited in your text every time you use information from it. In the Harvard referencing system, items should be arranged in alphabetical sequence by the last name of the author. Furthermore, all the reference materials should be in the same list. When you reference a book in your reference or bibliography list, you need to have the following information: author, surname, name, year, title, edition, place of publication, and publisher. These information have to be in the correct order, as it is represented in this slide. An example of book referencing is Naidu, Sum, 2006. E-Learning, a guidebook of principles, procedures, and practices. Second edition, New Delhi, CEM/CEA. In case there are more than one authors for one book, you include all the authors in one reference in your reference list. For example, Griffin, George, Smith, Nick, 2008. Learn how to reference. Third edition, Sheffield, KPML. As far as electronic books or journals are concerned, you need the following information: author, surname, name, year, title, online edition, place of publication, publisher, last accessed, and at URL. In order for the reference to be correct, you need to include all the previously mentioned information in the correct order, as it is presented in this slide. The difference between a regular book and an electronic journal/book is that you need to include that it is online, the URL of the website, and when it was accessed. In case there are more than one authors for one book, then the same principles of referencing as the regular book apply. Referencing an electronic website is very similar to referencing an electronic book or journal. The information that you need to include are author, surname, name, year, title, online available at URL, and last accessed. Again, it is very important to include all the information in the correct order, as it is demonstrated in the slide. Compared to referencing an electronic book or journal, you do not need to include edition, place of publication, and publisher. Similarly with the previous two examples, in case there are more than one authors for one book, then the same principles of referencing as the regular book apply.